Hey guys, this is Paul Underwood, the Quail Forever Farm Bill Wildlife Biologist in Manchester, Tennessee. So today we're actually going to start our little video series that I alluded to in my post last Thursday or Friday on Facebook. Thank you all for all of y'all's comments so far. Please keep, commenting, keep sharing the post. We'd love to see more and more comments. The more, the merrier. That we could possibly make videos on, and just content that y'all want to, hear about and different things like that. Well, I'm not going to go over one of the Facebook comments today. I also mentioned that I had some previous thoughts on, different topics that we could choose from as well. And this one I think y'all are going to be very interested in. And so let's go ahead and just dive right on into it. I'm going to share my screen so that y'all can go ahead and see what I'm seeing as well. So let me get this pulled up real quick. Okay, y'all should be able to see that now. So our topic today is going to be acorns and deer management, necessary component or periodic bonus. So this was by Dr. Craig Harper. Craig is a UT Wildlife Extension agent with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And then this Jarred Brooke was his grad student at the time. This study was done at Chuck Swan State Forest in WMA. Some of y'all may be familiar with that area. It's that Union County area in East Tennessee along Norris Lake. And kind of that middle northeastern part of the state. And so there's going to be kind of three different things that I hit on within this paper. And so let's try to answer this burning question right here. Necessary component or periodic bonus? Well, let's start with this graph right here. White oaks are inconsistent producers. So as you can see in 2006 and 2007, in this particular stand, there was over 100 white oaks that were, surveyed and whatnot during the study. During that time, there wasn't very many acorns produced. 2008, that bumped up a lot. Then you see it goes way down again in 2009, had another good mass crop in 2010, but then look what happened next year in 2011. Nothing. There was literally nothing. There's not even any green there. 2012 bumped up a little bit, not much, not great. 2013, even worse than 2012. 2014 was the best year on this, in this 10-year period. Over 80 acorns per square yard. Pretty dang good. You're about slipping on them at that point, walking those ridge tops over at Chuck Swan. And then 2015, look at that next year. Nothing. There's not any sort of green right there at all within that stand. No acorns were produced within that stand. So whenever we talk about how inconsistent of producers they are, let's go and let's talk about how each oak is different from another in the fact that not all are created equal whenever it comes to producing acorns in mass production. So a few good trees produce most acorns. So right here, as I alluded to earlier, more than 100 white oaks were evaluated for 10 years and rated as excellent, good, moderate, or poor acorn producers. A small portion of the trees were responsible for a majority of the acorn crop. As you can see, this diagram, 39% of the oaks, so these two numbers right here, 28 and 11%, the good and the excellent producers, that shows right there, produced 69% of the acorns. So the blue and the gray right there as well. So just a few of the oaks are producing a vast majority of the acorns. So this again shows that not all oaks are created equal whenever it comes to acorn mass production. And so within this study as well, it showed this as well. This is going to be the third thing. This is going to be more of a management technique here to go ahead and try to get more acorns on the ground. But there's also going to be something else I tie into this, as well afterwards. So we'll talk about, the crown release right here. So as you can see, basically the crown release, what happened was they picked out one of the, good producing oaks right here, and then they thinned any tree that was touching the canopy around it. So, or the crown of the tree, around it. So there's no more, competition. That crown, instead of being, as you can see, small and narrow, is going to be able to start expanding and therefore increase in acorn production. So this study ended up showing a 65% increase in production. But here's the thing about acorns is once they hit the ground, they're only good for a couple months, really at most. Number two, they're so inconsistent in them, producing, that if you're basing your management just off of that, what are deer and different wildlife species? Turkeys also comes to mind. What else are they eating? Especially in these closed canopy hardwood systems, there's not much there. I'm gonna go and stop sharing my screen real quick and go ahead and tie all this in real quick. This is gonna be a little PowerPoint. This is going to be a picture from the Southeastern Grasslands Initiative right here. So right here on the right, you can see kind of what I would consider a typical closed canopy hardwood system in, Tennessee. If you look right here at ground level, not much in the way of cover for one, and not much in the way of forage for number two. So with wildlife species, if you don't have one or the other, they're not going to be able to, live there. Especially some of these species like northern bobwhite, they have to have an early successional plant community, an herbaceous understory within a savanna, or even a woodland, and different, things like that in order to survive. But look what happens to that same stand after a thinning. You can kind of see back there in the background right there that that's more of what we would consider a savanna, a lot more open, less than 35% canopy cover overhead, low basal area. And then kind of right in here, that's more of what you would consider a woodland. It's kind of teetering on a woodland savanna, probably. But as you can start to see, some of these trees are having their crowns already starting to shoot out a little bit more from, the thinning, and able to expand their crowns. But look right here at ground level. This is really what I wanted to harp on. Even though you are getting more acorn production, look at the amount of forage that you're getting on the ground. Look at the amount of cover that you're getting on the ground. This is not going to just benefit one species and not only deer. This is going to benefit turkeys, especially out here in the savanna. You'll probably hear bobwhites whistling, as well, after some disturbances happen. Fire, herbicide, different things like that. But here's the thing is, if you look here as well, kind of all right in here, how hard is it going to be for a predator to go in here and try to find a turkey nest? How hard is it going to be for a predator to go in here and try to find a deer fawn? Yeah, we do have some trees still here in the canopy. But here's the thing is a lot of these plants that are over here are providing a lot of good overhead cover too. So think about turkey poults and quail chicks, and just quail in general, period. They have to have that overhead cover or they will get smoked by hawks every time. Once, a turkey reaches kind of that banty rooster size, able to start flying, their survivability goes up a lot. But with a quail, especially nowadays, not so much, as many of y'all know. And so the more overhead cover, especially in a system like this where, it's thinned really well in some, or, thinned more in some places than in others, that's something that you need, especially for quail, is that overhead cover. And again, this doesn't just benefit quail, it benefits turkeys and deer as well. Turkeys will use it as nesting rooting areas, like I've already mentioned, but also having that overhead cover for deer fawns so that they're not, laying out in the heat while mom is out foraging, in a place, getting heat exhaustion and all that sort of stuff as well. So let's move on to another picture here. So this is going to be more of like what would happen with a clear cut or something like that. And what do I see right here? I see a diverse plant community, comprised of grasses, forbs, and shrubs. And then also you can see the tree back there. I alluded to earlier, having a picture that would show, the crown of a tree that grows out, in more of an open environment. Well, look right here. Look how big of a crown that tree has right there. I mean, it is absolutely huge. You don't think that that's going to produce a lot of acorns? There's no competition around it, hardly. I think there's one other tree that looks like right over there. Hardly any competition around it. But here's the thing. That's only going to, like I said, last you for a couple months and very inconsistent. This plant community that you create under this is going to like what's going to be the bread and butter, for just about any wildlife species that's going to, be on your property and that you're trying to manage for. and especially those three focal species I've already mentioned, deer, turkeys, and quail. So you look at this, you got, shrubs over here. It's probably sumac, if I had to guess. Great place for a doe to go stash a fawn while she's out here foraging. A lot of calcium and phosphorus for lactating does in this plant community right here. A lot of crude protein in some of these plants. There's probably partridge pea out there, old field aster, desmodiums, um, wild lettuce, different things like that that are highly selected by deer, but they're also great cover plants and provide a lot of good structure as well for wildlife. So we recently went to Mississippi or Mississippi and I've been in Mississippi and Alabama, but the whole Quail Forever team in Tennessee went to Western Alabama and the Black Belt Prairie recently for one of our trips. And this stand right here is one of the stands that we went and looked at. This stand, I believe, had been disturbed by a tornado recently. I believe that they said it was over 5 years ago. But you can see decent plant community in the understory because of that, natural disturbance via the tornado underneath the canopy right there. It's not great, but watch what happens whenever you thin it even more. This is going to be a different stand now, and this is going to be a more open stand. But I think you'll see and understand what I'm trying to get at here. Let's see here. Let's do that. So if you look at this, you can kind of see back there in the background. That's kind of what was, in the last picture. Right here, we've got John Mark Curtis in the orange shirt and the blue jeans on the left. He's the Mississippi Senior Farm Bill Wildlife Biologist that came with us on the trip. And right here is our fearless Senior Farm Bill Wildlife Biologist, Alex Tamboli. He's out there in West Tennessee, around the Dyer Trenton area. And so if you look, Alex and John Mark are both, close to 5'10" a piece. And if you look, especially right here at Alex's right elbow, look at how, tall some of this vegetation is, where it's not, matted down from where they've been stepping on it. It's elbow high, over waist high. That's a lot of great cover for, nesting turkeys, brooding turkeys. It's also great for, deer fawns. Deer fawn could be laying 20 yards from you in that stand right there, and you would never know it. And then, going back to quail, we were hearing quail whistle like crazy out there. It was pretty awesome, especially in the more open areas. Once you start getting into this higher basal area stuff, cover for quail, it's not that great. There's a lot of hawk perches in there. And whenever the cover's not that great, and then the hawk perches, that's just a recipe for disaster right there. And a lot of dead quail. And so, but you get out into more of these open areas like this right here that they're in, man, it is primo, and it's a very diverse plant community right here. A lot of hog peanut, some blazing stars were back over in here. Let's see here, old field aster, desmodiums, blazing stars, different plants like that. All these flowers right here, there were bees and butterflies all over them. It was a really, really cool thing to see. Especially how you can go from, say an 80% closed canopy forest right back in here to something that's, less than 50, and how much more growth and how much more diverse of a plant community that you can have. One thing I'll mention right here real quick is whenever we're managing for wildlife, diversity is key. You want to have, different areas that are, more dedicated to early succession in a old field type setting. But then, you want to have some of these areas, some of these savannas, some of these woodlands. They all provide, unique things for different wildlife species at different times of the year and at different points of their life cycle. So especially if I'm going to go and hunt a property, or, looking for a property to go and view wildlife on, different things like that, I want to have, a diverse amount of cover types, plant communities, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go in real quick and let's talk about some of the plants that you might see after a disturbance, and maybe a crown thinning, or any sort of other kind of thinning, whether it's a commercial, non-commercial, or pre-commercial, commercial, non-commercial. Whether you just went in with herbicide and did some girdle and squirt or hack and squirt, in certain areas that that you hunt, and different things like that, and what you might see afterwards in the crude protein values from it. A lot of people, I think, have the misconception that the crude protein values in a lot of our native plants is not great, but I'm here to tell you different. And this is a page out of Craig Harper's Wildlife Food Plots and Early Successional Plants book. This shows, the common names, some crude protein levels, selectivity by deer, value as brood cover, and seed value for birds. So a lot of the times with a disturbance, you're going to get that flush of annuals. So you're going to get a lot of, stuff like common ragweed and partridge pea. So common ragweed, 18% crude protein, medium selectivity by deer, high as far as, brood cover for, turkeys or quail, either which one. I can't tell you how many quail I've jumped out of, little patches of common ragweed after, a winter disking or something like that. And then, high for seed value for birds as well. That's going to be your, year-round food for quail right there, the seeds. So it's a great producer right there. But let's jump to partridge pea real quick. I mean, look at that, almost 30% crude protein. I mean, that is absolutely astonishing. That's awesome. Medium selectivity by deer, high value as far as brood cover, high value as far as seeds, for birds. To me, there is not a better winter quail food than partridge pea. It stays upright generally during the winter, provides a lot of good, kind of that semi-woody structure for quail to, walk around in, keeps a pretty clean litter layer, allows them to easily navigate through it. And it's the same thing, in the summertime with common ragweed. And we'll talk, you talk about turkey poults as well. This is another great, plant that, turkey poults, it's easy for them to move through. There's a lot of bugs in each of these, flowering at different times of the year and whatnot, and insects, so that, those poults and those little quail chicks can eat those bugs and insects, grow, and gain muscle so that they're able to, eventually fly, and different things. But also some others that'll pop up eventually, like blackberry right here, almost 20% crude protein, medium selectivity, high as far as brood cover goes, high for seed value. Old field aster, not really going to be, anything for seed value, but high selectivity by deer and a high value for brood cover as well. And almost, it's 23.3% crude protein. I mean, that's awesome. That's really good. But not everything is created equal. So just like in, oats that I've mentioned right here. So let's talk about purple passion flower. Almost 37% crude protein, but there's really no selectivity by deer. It's not really browsed much, according to this. It's really creeps along the ground, so there's not really going to be much in the value of brood cover, and the seed value, it's going to be pretty low, generally. And so, but yeah, so basically, there's some of our native stuff. So let's talk about more of our non-native stuff real quick. That is just so happens to be in here. So Japanese honeysuckle, 16.2% crude protein, which is the lowest out of all of this. And then talking about selectivity by deer, low, low value is brood cover, low for seed value. And let's talk about another one real quick. This is a big one that pops up a lot of the times after a disturbance. I don't care whether it's disking, I don't care whether it's a thinning. This one just, it can grow on a flat rock anywhere. Cercia lespedeza. Not a bad crude protein content, 22.2%. But like I said, not all plants are created equal. So selectivity by deer, none. Low for the value is brood cover. And then for seed, Cercia lespedeza does produce a lot of seeds, but those seeds are so hard that they're undigestible, especially birds like quail and turkeys. So there is really no seed value. So after going in and doing a thinning, I highly recommend going in afterwards with herbicide. And it just depends on the species that you're spraying on, what herbicide and all that sort of stuff. But going in and trying to get rid and smoke some of these non-natives like the honeysuckle, like Cercia lespedeza, Another big one here in the southeast, especially in our drains or wetter areas, is Japanese stilt grass. Some people might know this Nepalese brown top. There's a bunch of different names for it, Japan grass, different names for it. So you'll see that one pop up a lot too. So, but the reason why I would say, making sure that you go in, and of course they're non-native, so they don't belong here anyways, but they're taking up a lot of room that old field aster, wild lettuce, blackberry, partridge peas, beggar's lice, and the desmodiums, common ragweed, sumac, 3C mercury, goldenrods, different ones like that that could fill that void and provide a lot of good quality forage and cover for deer and turkeys as well. And so, like I said, the whole point of this is to show that not all oaks are created equal. And even whenever you go in and thin, you are still going to, after you go in and thin, you are still going to get a flush of herbaceous plants. And with the right management techniques and, spraying your invasives and different things like that, you're going to have a heck of a deer and turkey property, and even quail too. Like I mentioned at the Black Belt Prairie place that we went to, there were quail whistling everywhere, which is awesome. And so I'm going to try to do a different video on, kind of quail management. I just so happened to do, quail research and stuff with the University of Tennessee before I took this job. So there'll be a video on that eventually and later on down the road. But anyways, that's kind of all that I have for you guys today. So if y'all don't mind to, comment your questions down below on this post. Like I said, I'm going to link that paper. It's only 3 pages long, but it would be, a good reference for you to go ahead and read. It's a great paper, super short, like I said, easy to read, and it has a lot of valuable information within it. So with all that being said, I hope that y'all have a great rest of your day, and thank y'all for tuning in.